Warning, the following communications are not authorized. Please disable your signals and report to your local re-education center immediately. Failure to comply will result in immediate reprimand and capital punishment.
I think we've never needed a warning more than now, Eric Butler from TatumReport.com. I don't know if it even helps anymore. YouTube has just updated their policy, and it's pretty much says you can't question anything. If we even thought that was a thing before, definitely can't question it now. Coming to us live from Arizona, Eric?
That is correct. Phoenix, somewhere in Phoenix.
Phoenix, somewhere in Phoenix. Sounds hot. Sounds like there's a basketball game going on somewhere. I think that's what
the D-bags, the Arizona Diamondbacks were playing last night, I believe.
Unbelievable.
And of course, the Phoenix Suns were close to winning last year, but then lost to Milwaukee, right?
I don't know. It's never been the same since Steve Nash, you know?
Fact. That's a fact. That's a very millennial thing right there. The Gen Zers don't know about that.
Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, all that good jazz. And even Shaquille is Shaq, you might know him more affectionately as the end of his career.
Shaq played for like all the teams in the like final 2 years of his career. Like every single
exactly. Speaking of Huskier fellows, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks fame. You know, I saw some article calling him Hassan Piker's dad or uncle or whatever he is. He actually came out and said that he thinks he can beat up Joe Rogan. He can beat his ass, this Daily Caller article says. We can pull up his tweets. He claimed Thursday night he could beat podcast host and MMA mixed martial artist Joe Rogan in a fight. Now, Joe Rogan isn't really a mixed martial artist. I mean, he does jiu-jitsu and taekwondo, but like he's not a fighter by trade. Not since he was like 18, but regardless, we'll look up what he says here.
Deleted. Okay, still there. I thought he might have deleted it.
If Joe Rogan believes that the government violating your bodily autonomy is tyranny, then he must be furious about anti-choice Christian mullahs in this country. If he isn't, then he's an effing hypocrite, sucking up to his right-wing audience either out of stupidity or cowardice. There's no way Joe Rogan would be for, like, extremely conservative Christians. Like, he's not religious at all. These are just not one of the things that you can point out that Joe Rogan says it's hypocritical, because he pretty much is not for any, extreme doctrine or anything like that. To all the loser Joe Rogan fans crying over my attack on his freedom, hypocrisy, and stupidity, are you guys part of the crew, or do you kiss his ass for fun? I thought he was a big boy who could handle himself. If he doesn't like my free speech, he can grow a pair and defend himself. So Cenk's really grasping. This seems 100% like he's doing this for publicity. And then he does one more. He responds to this guy saying, I'll make a $1,000 donation to your trash network or your charity of choice to see you call Joe Rogan, who is not only the most successful podcast in history, but also a black belt in mixed martial arts, a loser to his face. See, this guy's kind of got it wrong, whoever this random guy is. You can't have a black belt in mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts isn't a thing. That's when you do multiple martial arts and you mix them together. I don't know if they have yes, they have Cenk saying to this guy, deal, easiest 1,000 I've ever made. You think he's going to assault me? Sure, whatever. That's incredibly dumb, but also wouldn't work. I'm much larger than Joe, and I've fought my whole life. I'd end him, but grown-ups don't do that. That's like when Trump said about Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un is, I would never say that he's short and fat. I would just never say that. This is basically what Cenk's doing. I'm much larger than him and fought my whole life. First of all, he hasn't fought his whole life. I'd like to know where that comes from. Somebody looked it up. I don't know if it's in here at all, but he's only 5'9". Joe Rogan's like 5'7", so there's not much of a difference there. And Cenk's also fat.
I didn't realize they were so short. These guys are shorter than me.
Rogan is very short, yeah. But Cenk is fat and old and out of shape. Joe Rogan is on testosterone replacement therapy, works out every day, and does multiple martial arts. It's not even close. Even if Cenk was like 6'2". Yeah. Right. Even if Cenk was like 6'2", he'd still lose because of how good of shape Joe Rogan is in. This is stupid. But I think Cenk is doing this for publicity. I'm sure Rogan will do 3 to 5 minutes on it on one podcast in passing, and then whoever his guest is going to laugh at Cenk.
Yeah.
I don't know. Go ahead.
No, this is obviously him just clout chasing, right? I think it's not rocket science. Everybody knows that Joe Rogan. Now I don't know the details MMA or I can't watch that stuff. I don't watch the bones pop out and all that stuff like you guys do. But I do know that Cenk stands no chance, and he's probably just hoping to I don't know, get a weirdo left. I mean, I feel like Rogan has a lot. It's right. It's the most successful podcast in history. So he probably does have a lot of fans on the left who don't know who Cenk is. And I don't know where the intersection of the fans
Venn
that
diagram.
Yeah, the Venn diagram of the fans that Chunk, as he's colloquially
bullshit.
Yeah, of course. I don't know who he thinks he's gonna win over, but he gets a little time in the spotlight. It's kind of what we saw just a couple days ago with Stephen Colbert, right? Everybody cringed at his stupid little syringe dance number, but he knows that's not gonna sway anybody. It's just publicity. So it's corny, and I guess the fact that we're talking about it now means that they both win, unfortunately.
Can you believe this shit? Like, this is insane. And what song is it to? We don't have the audio right now. Tequila, that song?
Yeah,
Tequila. And then he keeps going. He had another one, and they're like these weird animated thing. And these are mostly dudes, I think, dancing in these things.
Are those guys? Are those? I can't tell. But
that's a guy.
I guess you're not supposed to be able to tell.
That one might be a girl, yeah, I think so. I don't know. That one is. Regardless, this is beyond stupid.
And then James Corden, remember when he did one a couple months back with one of those other pop stars? And then we had the Family Guy one recently where they did like a 2-minute or 3-minute like Family Guy special edition push for. I don't even know what the new rules, what we can and can't say. Will be gone tomorrow, but luckily we have the reserve account on set up, so when they nuke yours, we can head over there.
This is the new one he had to the song "Walk 1,000 Miles." It's truly disturbing. It's like just put a Pfizer. If they put a Pfizer logo on this, Eric, nobody who's in favor of this would mind. If they put a Moderna logo on this and just said Stephen Colbert is getting paid $1 million for this video, no one in his audience would care because they think in this weird dystopian post-truth era that they're doing the right thing. We're doing the right thing by putting this message across. So it doesn't matter if he's being paid by this because he's being paid for good things. He's being paid to promote a positive message. And it's like you take what China looks like and what North Korea look like in terms of their totalitarian government and how they push propaganda on their people. It seems very blatant and obvious to us. But all you have to do in the Western world, it seems, is pretend as if it's the good thing. Don't even pretend as if it's the government message. Just pretend throughout all media that this is the good and positive thing and that, Stephen Colbert doesn't have any skin in the game at all, or these networks don't have any skin in the game, and just put a friendly face on it. And this is what it looks like. It's just people pretending that they're not on the side of the government here. It's this, and the weird thing about it is, Eric, that all the people who are in support of this are generally people who say that we don't like the government. The government's racist and fascist, even though their guy is in the office. And it's this constant hypocrisy of I hate the government, but I love it when it's pushing things that I believe in, even though it goes against exactly what I claim to be against, which is, corporatism and fascism and things being pushed on minorities, which is what this is.
But do they truly? They don't really believe this stuff, right? Like, was it Zuby who tweeted a couple days ago or maybe a week ago that I think what we all already know is that if Donald Trump, now of course we're speaking in hypotheticals, I totally understand that, but if Donald Trump were still the president, all the people who love vaccines and want it to be mandated and want to force it on you and force it on your children, force it on your whole family, would be out burning down the streets, burning down buildings and protesting against it. but because their guy is in office, they love it and they want to force you to do it. Now, as far as Colbert, I hadn't seen that new one. I mean, it's really disturbing, but I mean, that's okay? Talk about like subversion, right? And like these tactics, how people were claiming that Nicki Minaj is controlled and she's gonna quote unquote do her research and gonna come out and like, do they really think of us as really quite that stupid? I mean, this is late night
Yes.
TV. This is not a cartoon. This is not trying to convince a child of something. This is for somebody who's up at midnight, an adult. You know, like how did it get this bad? How did it get
I
this
don't know.
bad?
It's obviously not for comedy centered people anymore because I used to watch the shit out of late night TV when I was a kid. I'd watch Conan O'Brien. I'd even watch Carson Daly afterwards, even though it wasn't funny. I'd watch some Jay Leno and Letterman. My dad loves Leno. And they would joke about, like, obviously it was a different time when it was George Bush. And would they make Obama jokes? Only Letterman would, yes, but it still wasn't, forcing medical decisions on you. It wasn't telling you you should hate the war in Afghanistan or you should hate the Iraqi war. It wasn't like that. It was still about comedy. So now the people who are watching these productions that take place in either New York or Hollywood, in Jimmy Kimmel's case, Leno used to be in Burbank, California, which I don't think is a place they film anymore. I think James Corden might, but I'm not sure where he is. But LA and New York for the most part. And these are the people who are staying up watching it. I don't know. I don't know how much people are actually watching it or how much of it is a grandfathered in audience. And then they clip it all for Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel's YouTube channel. And that's where they get 1 million views from boomers because those are the only channels that they can navigate to because it's pushed right into their face. Just like the state broadcasters are pushed into your face on the front of YouTube. So I don't know how much of their audience is actually a comedic audience anymore. I think it's just people going there to hear their approved politically correct comedy of topics that they think are okay to be presented. And what's okay to be presented to people is Trump sucks, even though he's not around. Republicans are evil. And now they push all these things about abortion and vaccines, and it's really weird when your comedy is centered around like what type of medicine you should be getting.
And this is going to be just like with the abortion argument, and of course, global warming or climate catastrophe or climate change or whatever they're calling it this week. This is feeling more and more like just the next doomsday. So it will never end. There's never gonna be a day where Fauci's got. You see how he is always so vague, right? Well, we just have to wait and see the data is gonna come out and we're gonna. I mean, first of all, he's 80 years old, so that's a problem. But the point I'm trying to make is this is a never-ending issue. Like it started just like I don't know back. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think decades, 40 or 50 years ago, climate change was actually global cooling, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
it went to global warming, and then they just called it climate change. So this is going to be like that in the sense that it's going to go on forever, and we're just going to have to eventually ignore it, just like we do the stupid climate change stuff. Like you're not. I'm not going to stop driving a car. You're not going to stop driving a car. AOC is not going to stop driving a car. Well, she's going to drive around in her Tesla
That's
that
true.
many other people are not able to afford. I think also last I checked, you couldn't finance a Tesla. I believe like some banks wouldn't even finance. You had to buy it up front. So you had to come up with 50K on the spot to get a Tesla. But the point is
Interesting.
this this will never end. So we are in the new normal. We made it. The war will continue. I'm not going to do it. You're not going to do it. And we're going to have two parallel economies.
Yeah, it's crazy. Have you heard about this new driving tax that they're piloting?
Which
It's
is
crazy.
makes perfect sense, right? Because they know that when they're gonna force people to get the stupid shot
and that's it there.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like they got louder as soon as she started saying that.
Now, does he actually think there's? I'm
It's the
confused on.
reporter who said that.
So it's the reporter, and maybe he knows that that's not actually what they're saying.
His name is Brandon, apparently, and I think I heard a couple Brandons in there, but it was clearly F. Joe Biden, which is hilarious. I'm just wondering if we're gonna have to start, blanking out the audio from arenas and stadiums now, and put in the fake cheers and applause like they did for hockey and soccer last year, which nobody liked because it was so stupid. Are they just gonna have to start blanking out crowd noise?
I wouldn't put it past him, and I, it's funny too because whatever back in 2015, maybe when Donald Trump was campaigning, they had a YG who, to be honest with you, I actually used to like his first album. My Crazy Life, I think it was called, was amazing. It was a work of art. Like it felt authentic, and he came out with a song called F Donald Trump, and we loved it. Everybody loved it. I mean, I didn't love it. I thought it was a stupid song. It didn't, and I can admit if the beat's hot or whatever, and like I can admit that, but the song was trash. I mean, R.I.P. to Nipsey. Everybody loved. Nipsey Hussle died, and everybody pretended like they were the biggest Nipsey Hussle fan, and I'm calling a lot of bluffs on that because I don't think a lot of these people were Nipsey Hussle fans. But that's a completely different story. And shout out to Brandon there, I guess. I don't know anything about NASCAR or the undercard levels of NASCAR or whatever these minor leagues are, but shout out to that guy for I guess he won. Is that why he's talking to her?
Yeah.
I don't know the whole story.
The best thing I saw from NASCAR ever is one time I was at my girlfriend's house, just one time. She gets crazy amount of channels. I don't know what their cable is called, but I'm just like, won't it be funny to just watch NASCAR? And they have this thing called overtime, where if they finish the race, like they conclude all the laps under caution, which is like what happens when there's an accident or a crash. They all have to do like slow laps while they clean up the crash and get it off the track. If they finish the race on that, they go into this thing called overtime, where they just do like 2 laps, and like they're all tight together, and they just go like 2 laps, and it's the most exciting 2 laps. And I wish that there was some form of this, and maybe there is, but where NASCAR is like 20, 30, maybe maximum 50 laps. It was the most entertaining 10 minutes I think I've ever watched. So many crashes, everybody's actually trying to pass each other because they're all crammed in this tiny space and there's so little time. But NASCAR, you come up with a 25 to 50 lap race, I'm there every time. It's going to be a hot 10 to 15 minutes of crashing and probably too many injuries, but I digress. Let's play this clip that we had prepared from Fauci saying basically you need to give up your rights, and then we can get into some of his emails that got leaked by Raheem Kassam and stuff. Yes, from the National Pulse. But here's him saying that basically, at some point you just got to give up your rights. You're just turning into George Bush. You just got to give up your rights. All right.
But you are a member of society, and as a member of society, reaping all the benefits of being a member of society, you have a responsibility to society. And I think each of us, particularly in the context of a pandemic that's killing millions of people, you have got to look at it and say there comes a time when you do have to give up what you consider your individual right of making your own decision for the greater good of society.
Sounds like to me, Eric, he's saying the government. The government treats you so well that it's time for you to give up your rights to the government. And I have a feeling a lot of people are going to hear say no.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Absolutely not. The man makes no sense. And look, they could have gotten away with this for 90 days back in spring of 2020. But now, more than 2 years in, and they keep dragging it on, we all know the goalposts have moved. I mean, it's whack-a-mole out there, right? I mean, it was 65%, then it was 75%, then it was 80%, then it was 90%, then it was 98%, and none of it makes any sense. And that's we don't even have to talk about how these particular things may or may not be incredibly effective and safe and the best medical breakthrough since Advil or something. I don't know, but without all of that, none of this makes any sense. And for him to come out there, and I feel like this isn't even the first time he said this. He also said whatever. He was like, even before Arnold Schwarzenegger said it, he said, well, I know people like their freedoms, but it's just now is not the time. But keep that in mind with the idea that he can't even answer a question from Fareed Zakaria on the difference on why it would be better to get that thing than to have natural immunity. Now, I never had the Rona. I'm not gonna get it because it's a disease of the brain, and it's not gonna happen to me. Like I want every Instagram troll and Twitter person or YouTube person to wish death upon me. It's not gonna happen. I'm just too strong for that. Like I'm not. I think I said it last week. I got sick in kindergarten with the chicken pox. I'm good. Money. Like stop trying to trick me into believing that I'm sick. I'm not sick. I'm not taking the stupid shot. And we keep on moving. It's good. Like I don't know why you're bugging. Like they are on another planet with this thing. Kathy Hochul and Gavin Newsom. I mean, it's almost like they're in bed with the pharmaceutical industry. Oh my God. Groundbreaking stuff. I mean, this is, and Fauci, obviously I don't even know about like all the new emails that Raheem has now, but we've already seen enough from him. We knew enough from Dr. Fauci 90 days into this pandemic to know that it was.
Well, he's a known liar. It's the thing. They keep going back to him. CNN, I think that was from again. They keep going back to him. He lied to the public and to his friends in his emails. He told the girl, whoever he was emailing, you don't need a mask. Was he lying to her or is he lying to the public? He lied about everything to do with Wuhan. He's just a known liar. He tells people things privately, private position privately, public position publicly, just like Hillary Clinton's emails. Complete 180. And of course, people are going to, jazz things up for the public when you're a politician, but it's the opposite.
Were those jazz hands? I don't know.
Those jazz hands. What movie is that? The cheerleading movie, Bring It On, I believe.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Bring it on again. Bring it on one more time. It's good that the NBA players are coming out because somebody like Draymond Green, who said the other day, it's like me telling a person they can't go see their pregnant wife, or like, it's none of my business what they do. Of course, you can be disappointed, but you can't just tell them what to do, because then what if it's you who wants to make a personal decision and everybody's telling you what to do? So it's funny that it takes like, of course, he's a cajillionaire, Draymond Green, on the Golden State Warriors, but it takes like, he seems like a regular guy having this regular explanation of why he thinks it shouldn't be mandatory. And it's taking NBA players, albeit, of course, cajillionaires, but it's taking NBA players to just be like, no, because it's the same league. It's the BLMBA, the same league that promoted the hell out of all the social justice initiatives and that the media parroted as being victims, even though they're millionaires. And now they're coming out and speaking against it. And they can't, none of these cowardly reporters can say, well, I disagree with you there, because if somebody else disagreed with them a year ago, they'd call them racist. And the sports media is so bad now that they have no spine. They can't answer or ask tough questions. All they can say is, why won't you say if you're vaccinated? And they're not going to say to these large men, Draymond Green's like 6'8", 220 pounds. Yeah. They're not going to say, well, you're a liar, Draymond, or you're full of shit, Draymond, because like, they're rich, you kiss their ass for a living, you want access, and because they're much larger than you. Yeah, it's not easy to not speak. That's why people don't give shit to like Colby Covington of the UFC, because he could easily beat you up. Like they try to do these things like these Trump questions to him, and like Jorge Masvidal, less to Masvidal because he's a Cuban from a communist country. But they try to say like this one little, they try to like, feel it out to see if they'll get away with it because they're little snakes. And then once they realize these are tough men, they kind of get shut down.
I don't understand why it's even, I mean, look, if there's any sect of the population who does not need it, it's a professional athlete. I mean, these guys are literally what? If you hit 32 years old in the NBA, you're past the prime, right? Like these guys are young. They're mostly sub 30. They're more than 6 feet tall, and we were told that 6 feet is the range for the virus to travel. so if you're 6 feet tall and you stand up, then I mean, look, none of it makes any sense, and the least of whom needs it. So if you want to play this, vulnerable population game, okay, you're 65, you're a little overweight, you may have smoked cigarettes or whatever, fine, whatever. If you think that this thing's going to help you, so be it. But if you're 27 years old, you're 200 pounds, 6'1", 6'2", and that's small for the NBA, and 0.002% body fat, then you don't need it.
And you're constantly being evaluated for your health.
Yeah, like I just don't understand it. Like, well, it could. So now they're afraid for Draymond's grandmother or something. Like none of this makes sense.
Yeah, somebody on the Wizards, I think, a teammate of Bradley Beal, I think it was a teammate of his, but another player just said, "How are you going to be this selfish when you know how COVID affected one of the players on your team's family?" So not even him, but the players on his team's family, but he's vaccinated. So like, it doesn't make any sense. Like I was talking to my friends here today, this afternoon, and it's just like, it's gotten to this point with the hospitalizations and everything that I mentioned, and now with the booster shots in Israel, where it's almost as like people can't admit that they were thrown through a bit of a loop. There's a bit of duping going on with this. So they rather you jump through the same ring of fire as they did to make themselves feel better than, realize that, they must not believe in what they're purported to believe. Because if you think you're not protected, and which statistically they appear to be, if you think you're not protected and you're still at risk, even though other people around you aren't protected, then why do you care? It's clearly not because you care about the other people, because there's all these people saying, good, don't let them have hospital beds, let them die, put it on the front page of the Toronto Star. It's clearly not a loving people thing. If what you purport to believe in actually works and is your defense system, then you shouldn't worry about the other people. We're up here, we're 25% past the marker that they set originally. And there's people still afraid because you don't want to admit that the effects wane over time, and therefore Pfizer says third, fourth, fifth booster shot. Moderna says whatever. So they just don't want to seem to admit that what they were sold is not the product that they brought home with them, and they want you to buy the shitty product too. They want you to buy the Xbox with the red ring of death because their Xbox shit the bed, and they want you to have that same bad experience with what's a game that was Xbox exclusive, because you can't play Halo anymore, because I can't play Halo anymore. So you got to buy this so that you can see that it sucks. And I'm not the only one who made the mistake.
Yeah, and wasn't it? It's like an old saying that it's easier to like trick somebody than to convince somebody that they've been tricked, something like that. So they just dig their heels in because it's embarrassing. Nobody wants to be like, okay, I mean, I've been tricked for the last year and a half. Like it's embarrassing to know. And on top of all that, this is kind of why I believe the real reason they got rid of Cuomo. Not because he killed all the old people in the nursing home, not because he grabbed some girl's booty, but because he and I posted it to my Instagram. I might bring that one back as like a recurring video as well, as when he literally said, if you got the shot, then you should not be scared of people who didn't. And that might have been the nail in the coffin for him, because that does not work with their do it anyways narrative. It's like, it was like Andrew Cuomo, former governor of New York, having a little dose of reason was enough for him to get the boot.
Did you see what Chris Cuomo is accused of as well? Chris Cuomo, brother of Governor Andrew Cuomo, of course, also accused of being really creepy. And I don't have the exact details, so I don't want to misspeak, but basically the same thing as his brother, where they sort of think it's okay. Well, one thing I remember is that Chris Cuomo was at a party, I believe, and he hugged a girl, and I think he grabbed her ass as well. And then he knew that his brother, or sorry, he knew that the woman's wife was there, and he grabbed her, or sorry, the woman's husband. Chris Cuomo knew that the woman's husband was there. He grabbed her butt and later sent her an email saying that he apologizes because he knew her husband was there and he did it anyways, and it was inappropriate behavior, and he apologizes for it. And that's the email, Eric, that this woman published out in the papers as evidence as to him sexually harassing her. Do you know the exact story? Am I having it correct?
Yeah, that sounds about right, but it's very strange as to why this would happen now, right? Because I believe it was old. It was from like 2005 or something, right? Wasn't it many years old that he did that? But for some reason, Chris Cuomo emailed why they would you could
TV
understand,
journalist.
You could understand why Larry Elder's ex-wife or whatever wants to come out and say something because he's running for governor. But this doesn't really seem to make any sense as to why it happens right now.
Listen to the verbiage here. Former executive producer Shelley Ross, and I forget who was talking about this, but they said she's very well known in the industry. I'm not a news producer in the U.S., so I don't know. Outlined an incident where Cuomo squeezed the cheek of her buttock without her permission in 2005 when they were colleagues at ABC. She also produced an email where he appeared to admit to the indecent incident and apologize for his behavior. I'm looking for the actual email there. Maybe it's in this New York Times article. He squeezed the buttock, and then she shows an email, a paywall, of course. She produced an email where he said, "I'm sorry," and it was in front of her husband. He knew that her husband was at the event for ABC, and he did it anyways because his big brother's governor. I'm Chris Cuomo from CNN. What the hell are you going to do? Like, what?
I don't think his brother was governor at the time.
They're a powerful family, is what I'm saying. So what are you going to do? It's the same thing. He goes outside when he says he has Rona, and he has this big reveal. He lies about that. He lies about this. He's a weird, creepy dude. You can get the emails from me. If you read them on your own, that's illegal. He has all this thing. Oh, no, there's never been any issues with transgender men in women's bathrooms. That stuff has never happened. He just says stuff that he doesn't know about. He's willing to say whatever it is on camera. And then I
remember when
still
he said
forget
he was gonna throw somebody down the stairs.
Yeah,
he also said that fake news was like calling a journalist fake news was like the N-word for black people. I mean,
he's
the
got
list is
so many
never
stupid takes, and he also thinks he's the toughest of tough guys too, which is a huge problem as well. Eric, he's a really weird guy. We didn't get to the emails though, so I want to bring those up from National Pulse, Natalie Winters, and Raheem Kassam. He congratulates the 2006 award. He congratulates a Chinese guy for an award, top science honor for foreign scientists, as quoted Columbia University press release. Solidifies my relationship with dear friends and colleagues in the Chinese Academy of Science. Let's see. It's a great honor to receive this medal. I will cherish it as a reminder. Let's see. Where does he actually say? Interesting. I'm trying to find. Oh, we'll just read the email here. So from Anthony Fauci to Will 2001. That's a good email. Congratulations. Very much deserved. Best regards, Tony. Dr. Ian Lipkin receives China's top science honor. Director of the Center of Infection. Oh, so he's winning it for Columbia. Received China's top honor degree for foreign scientists, which of course has got to be shady. International Science and Technology Cooperation, received by the President Xi Jinping. Outstanding contributions to scientific and technological innovation for promoting scientific advancement in China. So he's over in China helping the Chinese government in epidemiology. And then here it says infection and immunity. He works for at Columbia University. He's the director there. He's over there helping China with that stuff. And the president of China gives him an award.
And this is January 2016. So right before Trump took office,
Yes.
it's I don't want to go full tinfoil hat, but it's almost because remember there was also I'm not saying this. This is not me saying this, but if you Google it, don't Google it. DuckDuckGo it when there's a clip of Fauci saying that we basically predicting the pandemic in 2017, which would still been a year after this email, almost as though they had been working on something for a long time. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just using, I'm just spitballing here. I'm just throwing
They were
things at the
working on it for a
wall.
couple of years. It's proven, Eric. I don't think we're going to get kicked off for that. The emails from Fauci with the NIH and that guy, I forget his name. He's part of he's part of that environmental group that funded this. And they email Fauci and they say, sir, I think we were funding them for when they got the gain of function
because
to
right,
make
he
it
said,
more
like,
infection in lungs in humans.
is this ours? Wasn't that like the line, like, is this one of ours or something like that, where he's questioning if he was if he had something to do with this, and he did. Now, just so I can remain consistent, I just still don't believe it's that deadly. So you can blame it on Fauci all you want. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, the guy's a rat, he's a phony, he's a liar, he's a scumbag. But all of that said, I don't even the dead bodies that Cuomo is responsible for, I don't think those are really from Rona. I think he hooked those people up to ventilators to grab more power, and it just kind of backfired on him. That's what I think. Now, obviously, that is an opinion, right?
It's unauthorized.
Exactly. Like, it's not, I'm just.
Here's my problem with a lot of the people, specifically the people who say, I'm sure it's a small segment, but people say that it isn't actually a thing. We have these emails from Fauci. We have him talking to the people who work there for him. We have evidence of the funding. You'd have to be willing to claim then, if this is all fake, that these emails were purposely written over the course of several years to set up this story, to cover it all up, that it's not actually real. So I don't believe that. I think the evidence speaks of otherwise. I think the evidence of Bill Gates wanting a vaccine passport program speaks louder than words of what he's been wanting to do for several years. It's creepy. It's weird. I think that it gets pushed, and it's help from the Chinese government to both help China and help the Democrats, who are clearly in cahoots in some way, shape, or form together, whether it's directly or indirectly and philosophically. They just want the same things in the end, or they just don't want to please or displease their eventual overlords. I think a lot of it is a push to help China and help the Democrats and, seize more power. China's already got the power, so they just wanted their economy to boost up. But there's a big piece of fluff floating in front of me. That's why I'm tracking it with my eyes. To boost China's economy up, they don't care about the loss of life in their country. And in turn, it gets other Western countries more power. I mean, we see what's happening in Australia. They look more and more like China every day. They're just speaking English. People arresting people for eating. I just watched a clip before we came on here of a guy getting arrested for walking his dog. Didn't have his mask on. A Muslim mother and child getting arrested for not having their mask on. When is it going to stop? I don't know. Different parts of the world, people are weaker, people are stronger. Florida being the strongest. And then you got all the way down to Victoria, Australia, being the weakest people, the weakest willed police force, I'd say, in the world. It's really strange, Eric. Do you want to finish with the real patriot, Alex Jones? We got to be careful about this one.
Well, I was thinking that the fentanyl pill thing might tie in a little bit better to China.
Okay, we can go to that.
Just because the article specifically says that these Mexican cartels are using products imported from China, and then they're flooding America with the products that they've made from the Chinese fentanyl. So it just kind of plays into the idea that China is still in control, and they're going to wreak havoc on us in one way, shape, or form. If it's not one thing, it's another, right? So
1.8 million fake pills containing synthetic opioid could have potentially killed more than 700,000 people.
Yeah,
That's more than Rona, is it not?
exactly. So even if half of those people die of fentanyl, they can just say it's Rona, or they can just blame it on a police officer.
Criminal drug networks flooding the U.S. with fentanyl-laced pills over 8 weeks. 700,000 people in 8 weeks? No way. That's got to be.
Well,
It's got to be linked to longer than that. The arrests, I think, are just 8 weeks, right?
the investigation was over 8 weeks, and that's how they found they seized all the drugs that could have, I guess, if they were to have hit the street, could have, in theory.
Okay, here's the China part.
Yeah.
Drug networks in Mexico are producing the fake pills on a massive scale using chemicals largely obtained from China, distributing them across the U.S. How does it get there? I guess the Mexican DEA isn't that strict when it's run by cartels.
And
online.
And China probably likes it. Right?
Of course. I'm sure that's probably not even illegal for them. It's probably hush hush, but I'm sure it's not cracked down upon in China. There's no way.
Exactly.
Especially if it's being exported. I don't believe that. That's just my opinion. 3/4 of the more than 93,000 plus fatal drug overdoses. So that what they're probably doing, Eric, is that they can trace what's in the pill, and they link it to the toxicity in a person's dead body. So they can probably trace the same strain of chemicals. That's
and it's
insane.
Crazy because I think it ends up in multiple different drugs. Like obviously mostly in heroin, but it also ends up in
meth and cocaine, it says here.
Yeah. It's crazy. And are we to pretend? Are we pretending? I guess we are, because we're pretending about almost every other aspect of our lives at this point. But that the fact that the southern border is wide open, has nothing to do with the record amount of fentanyl and drugs that you're seizing. I mean, are we saying that those things aren't linked? We're just going to call it racist when somebody hops on the back of a horse and tries to stop. Now, I guess that's different. Those are Haitian migrants. But the point remains the same, is that the border is effectively wide open. And it leads me to believe, maybe we won't get to the Alex Jones story, but shout out to him for, if you think about it, and Tucker too, by the way, with the replacement stuff, which you're not allowed to talk about. But it leads me to believe that these political thugs have some hand in this drug trade. And I've said it about California for a long time, is because in California they have needle exchanges. You can get clean needles, right? They have safe injection sites. They've decriminalized, possession of drugs. All of this stuff that makes it easy for drug users to thrive. Not to mention the Narcan. I want more people to know about Narcan. I bring it back up every couple of months just because it's that intrusive. But the point is, you can overdose on heroin that they are allowing you to get, and then when you overdose, they're giving you the cure for the overdose that they also profit from. So what I'm saying is, I think wholeheartedly that some of the political people in California actually not like roundabout way. I'm talking like straight up have their hand in the drug trade. Like if you look at The Wire, like shout out to Michael K. Williams, also who they mentioned in this article, but that these people are, literally profiting off the drug trade. And I think that California system has sort of leaked into the Democrat Party as a whole. And now they want people to be coming over the border with drugs because in a similar fashion as take Andrew Cuomo, before Andrew Cuomo, Elliot Spitzer, who was caught with prostitutes. And we can't decouple prostitution with human trafficking. These things go hand in hand. So when you have people allowing for these drugs to come over at such a rate and the border is wide open, this is not a coincidence. This is not incompetence. This is on purpose, in my opinion.
Come right up to the hour mark here, Eric. I want to talk about it next week. We can probably talk about Alex Jones. Maybe we've saved ourselves from that. There's some report that I think we should talk about next week where the CIA says, according to CIA reports, there's no link to the CIA being involved in South American drug trade.
Of course.
So there's that. let's give a shout out to your book. Let me quickly bring up. We'll put it in the back. Amazon, New York City, 2020. My show, rebelnews.com/Andrew says. I'm just speaking this long because I really have to go to the bathroom. I've made it to the hour mark. Check us out, of course, every Sunday. Find the YouTube channel, Unauthorized Opinions on there. We're streaming on there every week as well on Twitter. The accounts, if you guys are confused, the live stream accounts, depending on where you're watching, they're not amalgamating them anymore from Twitter and YouTube because Twitter is no longer Periscope. So I don't know how it works. It's Twitter Live. So don't be afeared. We love you guys for watching. We'll be back next week. Eric, final thoughts? You like Kramer behind me here?
Yeah. Love the
Did
new
it offend
Kramer.
you?
I'm never going to be offended by Kramer. They've all gone completely woke, but I still enjoy the classics. I can't take that away from them.
Now on
check
Netflix.
out amazing too, because I canceled my Hulu, but that's a different story. Also, I have to, of course, shout out the book and TatumReport.com.
TatumReport.com, everybody, rebelnews.com. Check you later. Don't go watch Kramer's Fall from Grace. Save yourself.